Hey, it's Ron McLean. Welcome to Hockey Talk on the Rock.
With Laura and Keith.
It's interesting.
So let's back up a second.
He played absolutely out of his mind.
It made no sense to me.
And now, here are your hosts.
Alright, here we go. We are back doing Hockey Talk on the Rock, episode number 72. Last time we talked, we were mid-game against Arizona a week ago. Tonight we lost a heartbreaker against the Minnesota Wild, so we've got a little bit of a recap from this week and a couple other small league notes.
Yeah, so I mean, the Canucks started off this week very well. They won 6 games in a row, like going back to last week, right? And then in the end, it ends up being kind of the Ottawa game, which they should have won. Then they let slide. They let the Sens tie it up. They were up 2-0 originally, and let the Sens back in, gave the Sens the lead, tied it up, and then eventually lost in the shootout to, Adam Gaudette, which obviously stings a little bit more because, as you said, if he's taking that shot against any other team, he's not scoring, but because it's the Canucks, it's going in. And
It's just too Canuck.
yeah, it was the most Canuck possible thing to happen, but I mean, it's hard to be too upset about the Canucks, I think, for me anyway, just because of how much better the second half of the season was than the first half. And, like, it sucks. Obviously, I'd love to see the Canucks make the playoffs, but just the fact that they've played this much better, to me, gives me a lot of hope. And I obviously think if the Canucks could have slipped into that third spot in the Pacific and played Edmonton, I would be like a lot happier than the thought of them creeping into that last spot in the West and playing Colorado personally. But it's probably not gonna happen. I mean, I've said this so many times though, and then they come back and they make it interesting. But I think we just have to kind of enjoy what they've done, and it's really nice. We have, 3 30-goal scorers, which hasn't happened since 95-96, they said tonight, and seeing, definitely, Miller was great all season, but Pettersson and Horvat hitting 30, I think, is really nice to see, judging by both of them had periods of time where they were very harshly criticized, especially Pettersson, and I mean, rightfully so, due to his play and his contract and everything that he is meant to be for the Canucks. He should be criticized when he's playing poorly, but it's nice to see him bounce back and be looking this dominant. I've thought, for the last couple weeks he's been the best Canuck nightly, which is again outside of Demko, but it's nice to see. I do think maybe what we're seeing a bit here too is maybe Demko's a bit overplayed at this stage.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, again, tonight they lost a game to a really good hockey team, and they had their chances, right? Like, that second period, they did take the lead, they couldn't hold on to it, and then they ultimately lose it in the third, and I thought their third period, again, wasn't great, but to me it just looked like Minnesota knew what they were doing, and they went out and they played their game, and they're a good team.
Yeah, I mean, like I said to you earlier, it's like the 30th biggest game of the year now, which is really nice considering where we started 25 games into the season when the big changes all happened. So it's been really enjoyable to have these meaningful games and have that hope. It is disappointing to have Demko play the way he has this year and have 3 30-goal scorers, and now looks like they probably won't make the playoffs. But again, never say never.
Yeah.
They could win out, and LA and Dallas and Vegas could all lose all their games, and it's not impossible. But it was a big blow tonight. We talked mid-game with Arizona and they ended up winning that one 7-1, which was it's Arizona, but it was sweet just for the enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
And then they had a big break, and then Monday they came out and played one of their best games of the year against Dallas. Yeah. Winning 6-2, and Dickinson played on another level against his old team.
Yeah, that was good to see.
It was a good game. And then it was just really unfortunate that Ottawa and Vancouver both played
the night before.
And you would think that Vancouver should have, and they really should have,
They
especially
should have won
after that
game.
second period. the Canucks had a lot of opportunities, a lot of looks at the net, and like an egregious amount of like times that they just plainly missed the net on shots that they normally wouldn't.
Yeah.
Not saying they're all going to go in, but
but put it to the net, make the goalie make a save.
Exactly.
Thing,
So it was disappointing, and then like you said, got out winning the shootout too was super frustrating because it's just like it's so Canuck, you know. It's like he got his first career goal against the Canucks, or like he got his first ever hat trick against the Canucks, or first ever shutout against the Canucks.
Oh, it's the Toffoli thing from last year, right? Like every time he plays the Canucks, he's gonna score a hat trick. But it's just it is what it is. As a Canucks fan, you expect it, kind of thing. Yeah.
So I mean, looking ahead, if they do not make the playoffs, it's gonna be super fascinating to see what this new management team has determined in this 60 games, 55 games since they took over, and what they're gonna do, because like they have a lot of good pieces and they obviously realize that, and the money situation is the obstacle.
The money, and I still think the defense. I know that they said the defense wasn't the problem, but I mean, like the fact you have like OEL and Myers making that much money on that pairing, and they're both not top defenders anymore is a problem. And I mean, like honestly, outside of like Luke Shen and Quinn Hughes, I'm not really that happy with like Dermott's been fine since he's come from Toronto, and as you know, a 5th, 6th guy or whatever, he's fine. But they need to do something. But I agree, like if you compare this to where we were at last year when we were thinking about like what they're gonna do as a team, there's a lot more hope. And like I'm now not overly concerned about their bottom 6 making like a crazy amount of money. And like you and I talked about earlier, like they made the right move, it seems like, with Mott because of his value in this market. He was gonna get paid too much, and like as you can see, bringing in like a Richardson or whatever, like it's a role that you can fill without having to overpay. So, and I mean, even like Will Lockwood, right? Like since he's come up, he's provided some of that. I don't
minus
think
the offense.
I don't think he's Mott's level yet, but he's young, and it's good to. And it'll be interesting to follow the Abbotsford Canucks too, because there is some prospects like. Apparently Rathbone has really picked it up defensively. He's already had some of that offense in his NHL game. And like Linus Karlsson has come around quite a bit too. So these are players that might be able to make that jump next year. At this point, like I know it was only like a week or two ago, Alvin said that like moving forward, they're really happy to have Hughes and OEL on the left side as their top 2 guys there, and then plug in the holes beside them. Which obviously I think Shen's going to be with Hughes most of the year next year. I can see them paying to move Myers' contract. I don't think it would cost an egregious amount to do so, because there is a bit of a market for that guy that can play the minutes, and if he has more of an opportunity to play power play, I think he can get more points elsewhere. So he's not bad offensively. Like obviously he's not ideal, but he's not awful. But like Hughes and OEL get the power play, and Hunt, I guess. But I think I can see that being the move. The move they make to clear up cap space, to make it all kind of work and try not to break up the band too much next year. And I think like you touched on with Demko, this is the most games he's ever played as a starter. It's probably like doubled his NHL career totals as games played. So it's a lot to rely on a young guy coming up and getting his first big contract starting goalie type gig. So, he's probably pretty fatigued, but come back next year and be better. So, we'll see. And they did sign Spencer Martin. I don't remember if we talked about this. We didn't, but his first ever one-way deal. 2 years. To be the backup for Demko. So it'll be a cheap backup for the Canucks, which is nice to see. But again, we'll see, right? Like, he's looked good. Small sample size in the NHL. So if running forward, Demko is going to be the guy, but how many starts are you going to be giving to Demko? Because I don't think you really want to get into this position again next year where you feel like you kind of have to play Demko. They're going to, though. They're going to, I know. He's going to get 60 next year for sure. But maybe he's just better prepared for it. Anyway, it's rare now in the NHL, right, for the starter to play 60 games, but this is where the odd guys, and he is still young. So he's got some, he's got he's got a lot of good qualities. I'm a big Demko fan, and so we'll see how it goes. And obviously, again, another thing that the Canucks do have going forward. Obviously, you can't tell too much about next year until next year happens, but barring like any sort of massive transformation in the Pacific, they do have a weaker division, and that is part of the reason why they've stayed in the hunt for the amount of time that they have, is because they play in this division. But again, you think about the teams moving forward next year, like obviously I would expect that Vegas is going to bounce back and have a better season if they get healthy, but you never know. It could be the end.
I mean, they're going to lose Riley Smith because they won't afford him.
Yeah.
And, I think Leonard's going to be a question mark moving forward, too, with his health.
Yep.
You never know.
I
don't have a lot of faith in Vegas.
I have more faith in them being better than this year, though, than I do them being, like, awful. And it's probably only because you know that their owner is impatient. So he's going to make moves. Like, if Leonard can't be your starter, then they're going to figure something out, I think, right?
Yeah.
But even though, like, if you look at the top teams, like, you can see that Calgary, I don't know what they're going to do with Gaudreau. It's going to be really interesting to see because Kachuk is also up, so I think you're losing Gaudreau. Like, I don't think you keep him, but who knows? He's played very well this season for them, but I don't think they're going to be as good a team next year as they were this year. Edmonton, always a big question mark, and I think, like, logistically, the other team in that conversation has to be Vancouver, and I think they can be better than two of those three teams for sure, kind of moving forward. So it's nice to see that,
Yeah, I don't think you have to worry too much about Arizona, San Jose. Like, I know Anaheim's young players are going to get better, but I don't think they're going to be taking that step next year, especially like they sold off a lot of pieces.
Yeah.
LA, I don't know, because a lot of their young guys aren't taking that big step, and the other guys are just getting older.
Yeah.
So, like you say, it leaves a lot of room for opportunity for Vancouver.
Yeah.
So we'll see. And like you alluded to, and I was going to jump into, is like the offseason is going to be fascinating from Vancouver's standpoint, but like overall, there's a lot of players who are up on their contracts, and like you brought up Gaudreau in Calgary.
Yeah.
Man, like what are they gonna do if Calgary makes it to the Final Four or even the Stanley Cup Final and doesn't quite win?
Yeah.
But he plays a big role. Like they're gonna be in a really, really tough spot.
I mean, I honestly think if he gets nominated for the Hart, which isn't outrageous, I think that almost makes it a hard conversation too, like with your fans.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, we have a Hart Trophy like candidate, and then we're just letting him go for nothing. But yeah, I don't think, like, what else can you do to fit in like Matt Kachuk, who's gonna make a ton?
Well, they'll find a way to pay to move Monahan.
Yeah, they have to.
Yeah, and that might be it.
Yeah, but anyway, it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of interesting things coming down the pipe. Like Minnesota tonight, Fiala's now a 32-goal scorer, 77-point guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's an RFA, but, like, we've talked about Minnesota's cap, how they're going to be in next year with the buyouts, and, like, they're going to be in a really tough spot. There's going to be a lot of names out there. It'll be just interesting to see the merry-go-round and where everybody comes off kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, do you have anything else on the free agency?
I don't think so.
Okay. I want to quickly acknowledge Ovi's 50-goal season, 9th ever in his career, and ties Gretzky and Bossy for most 50-goal seasons in a career. It's been incredible. Like you said earlier, I don't think anyone thought he was going to have another 50-goal year, but he is Ovi, and he did it. He's 110,
I think.
14 goals off of Gretzky's record to tie, and so 115 for the lead, which it just seems doable.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
It's really crazy. It's really entertaining, and it's like something that it's going to be a hot topic for the next 2 to 3 seasons if you can keep it up.
Yeah, fascinating to watch this all come together. I kind of remember, I think like 5 years ago, like the first kind of whispers about it, and I was like, no way. Like, there's no way he's going to stay like healthy enough and keep producing at this level to do it. And he's done it to this point where it almost seems inevitable right now, and it's just like, when he signed that deal last summer, you're like, okay, he's doing it. Like, he's in it to get the record, and he's gonna complete it. And yeah, I've been an OB fan since he broke into the league. I always really enjoyed watching him play, so it's cool to see. Just again, considering too the era of time that he's played in, and the goalies and the low scoring games, and then all the games missed from the lockouts and COVID and everything, that he's in this conversation. So props to him for sure.
Yeah, and also interesting, like I mentioned earlier, is if you look at games played, like if he keeps on this pace, he'll get the record, if he gets there, in like really close to the same amount of games played as Gretzky too, which is equally impressive.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's not like he's just played like 400 games more and that's why he got there or something, you know?
Totally.
So yeah, pretty exciting time. Especially like goal scoring is up. We talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of things we didn't think we would see. A lot of team records are getting set and broken and stuff like that. I know Kaprizov now has like
95 or something.
Yeah, he has the records for Minnesota for like rookie from last year, but now like just general scorer for that team. So yeah, it's kind of a golden era of goal scorers and elite talent in the league, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And then I guess we can quickly just talk about like the playoffs are on the horizon. There's anywhere from like 4 to 6 games left per team.
Yep.
The East is set with their 8.
Yep.
It's going to be interesting to see, you know, who Florida and Carolina end up getting as the wild cards, because it's kind of like a little bit of juggling. You never know who's going to play with Toronto at this point. Is it going to be Boston? Is it going to be Tampa?
Yep.
You know, is Washington to pop up past Pittsburgh and play New York, which you said earlier would be storyline wise way more interesting to see those two in the playoffs, you know, referring to the Tom Wilson incident and
just
what
the whole structure of that team, right?
Yeah, and see if it paid off, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of interesting to see how that's all going to shake out in the East, and then the West, as we talk about endlessly. You know, there is a couple teams still in the chase, and we don't know who it's gonna come down to. It's like 99% sure we'll see St. Louis and Minnesota, which I think is going to be a really heavy series with a lot of scoring.
Yeah.
Should be good. I think we all think Colorado's going to cakewalk out of the first round.
Yeah. The only thing I could think would be if somehow Nashville dropped into like the second wild card and played Colorado. I still think that Colorado would win, but I feel like it would be a closer series. If it's Colorado-Dallas, it's like, I think it's just done. Kind of like, thanks for showing up, you know, here's your participant ribbon, now go home.
Yeah.
But I think Nashville's going to be hard on whoever they play, because it seems like they're kind of entrenched in that spot. So if it's Calgary, I think that's going to be also actually quite an entertaining watch. Even though I hate Calgary, but
could be a good series. Like Nashville last year surprised a lot of people in the playoffs when they took Carolina to 7. I think it was, didn't they?
Yep.
And that was a lot of sorrow standing on his head, really. But you just never know in the playoffs. There's always an upset in round 1.
Yeah, I think too in the East, like if we have Boston, Carolina, which it kind of seems like it's gonna be now, I feel like that series is also gonna be interesting, even though I don't like either of those teams really, but I just feel like there's gonna be a lot of animosity for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know. Anyway, and then that Atlantic battle is gonna be fun whatever happens, so.
And is it the year for the Leafs?
I don't know. I still say I have a hard time betting against Vasilevsky, but
yeah, and I mean, what is it now? 6-1 tonight. Tampa's stomping on Toronto.
Yeah.
So time will tell.
Yeah.
So again, as always, next time we talk, we'll have a clearer picture of what's going to happen. I think we have 2 weeks until the end of the regular season.
It's pretty close, right? Because LA, that game's next Thursday, I think, and then I think they might just have one more game after that. So
a week, 10 days maybe.
Yeah.
So. If we don't do another episode in a week like we usually do, maybe we'll do one right at the end of the regular season and just kind of recap and kind of preview, and then I think we should do a separate episode mini and do our bracket challenge.
I was gonna say I'm hoping for a rematch this year
for some redemption.
Yeah, it has to go better than last year.
Okay. Well, I think that's about it for this one. So. Thanks for listening. Hockey Talk on the Rock, episode number 72. That's Laura, and I'm Keith, and we will be back.
Woo!